Hi everyone, today I'm really excited to show you how to paint and animate these floating lanterns all in the app Adobe Fresco, which is free, so you can download the app to join me in this tutorial. So first I want to make a really simple background, and to do this I'm going to use the oil paint chunky live brush. And Adobe's live brushes are incredibly cool because they behave like realistic oil brushes and mimic the same properties with thick realistic texture and really beautiful blending. So right now I'm just going to be painting the entire canvas. I used the color purple, and now I'm going to be adding a little bit of fuchsia pink in there, and then I'm going to select a dark blue, like a royal blue, just to make a nice blend of colors. And then once we have all of those colors laid down, I'm going to very gently press with my Apple pencil and blend all of these together. And you don't really need to change brushes or anything, but I will change the color back to purple to blend some more. And it just really nicely blends all those colors together to make your evening sky. So now I've added a new layer to paint the lantern, and we're going to go back to the live brushes, but this time we're going to go to the watercolor section and pick the basic watercolor brush. And then with the color yellow, paint the base shape of your lantern. And this is what's great about Adobe Fresco, because you can use watercolor and oil paint in the same piece without having to worry about if the mediums will work well together. Although you can always paint on the same layer and see how they react to each other, but I just added a new layer for my lantern. So now what I'm doing here is I am adding shades of orange to the lantern near the middle and the top. And this part is all on the same layer so that the watercolors have the ability to react and bleed into each other just like real watercolors. And as I keep adding orange shades, I'm going to be getting a little bit darker and redder as I move towards the top edges of the lantern. And at the same time, I'm just taking this color down the side edges of the lantern to add a little bit more depth and contrast. And what's great is that all the watercolors are staying inside of the shape because of the water physics these live brushes have. So now I've added a new layer, and I'm just going to draw the bottom of the lantern, and this is all on a clipping mask, so this will stay inside of the lantern. And I'm going to add one more layer, and then I'm going to use a bright yellow to draw a flame here and just let the watercolor do its thing. Then I merge the lantern layers together, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. Next, tap the move tool, and we're going to resize two of these lanterns, one to be medium sized, just a little bit smaller than the first one, and then the third one we're going to make it the smallest. So now you have 3 lanterns of different sizes. Tap done, and now it's time to animate these lanterns. So to do that, we're going to tap the new motion button right here. Then you'll see a little menu pop up here at the bottom, and you'll just tap path. And then I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can start and end these paths off the canvas. So I'm starting below, and then I'm drawing my way upwards in kind of a curvy line and allowing the lanterns to float up. So I'm going to draw 3 paths, and you can see that I'm starting and ending at different points so that the lanterns have different trajectories. And you can see that over here on the side, there's a menu that's popped up. So once I finish drawing all my paths, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start messing around with the sliders to see what works best with these lanterns. So right now I only have one set of them going across the page, and I want to add a few more. So when you add multiples, you add a few more lanterns, and you can decide how many multiples you want. And I decided on 3. Now let's turn up the scatter slider, and this just scatters the path that each lantern is taking. And I've turned it up to 35. Now you can see that the lanterns are moving pretty quickly upwards, so to slow it down, I'm going to actually up the amount of frames so that there's more frames per loop. And this way it makes it look like the lanterns are floating a lot slower. So now we're going to basically replicate all these steps for every single lantern layer. So tap on your next lantern and then tap path. Now we're going to start off the canvas and draw upwards, kind of little wavy lines, and make sure you randomize where you start and end these paths. And for this medium-sized lantern layer, I'm going to draw quite a few more paths than the one before. So I have 6 paths here, and on the first one we only had 3. And then we'll play around with the settings too. So I'm going to turn multiples up to 3, and then we'll turn scatter somewhere around 30 through 35, somewhere around there. And then same thing, we want to turn up the frames to make them float a lot slower. And then we'll do the same thing for the smallest lantern layer. And so to do this, make sure you tap on your next lantern layer, tap path, and then we're going to start drawing all the paths that we need to do. And for the smaller one, we are going to draw the most paths. So we're going to draw a lot of them, and most of them are going to start pretty close to the canvas and end pretty close to the canvas, although I'll have a few going pretty far away. That way we just have a lot of random paths going on here. Same thing here, we're going to add a few multiples, and we're going to add a little bit more than before. And then let's do, let's see what our scatter looks like. I don't like it that scattered, so we're going to go right around 44, 45, and then we'll also turn the frames way up here as well to make them really look like they're floating slowly. Now, when I press play all, my lanterns sort of look weird, and that is because my lanterns are out of order. So I want to make sure that the biggest lantern is the top layer, and then the smallest lantern is the bottom layer. And that way it makes the bigger lanterns look closer to you, and the smallest lanterns will look like they're in the distance, and it gives your piece an overall more dimensional look. Now all that's left to do is export it. I'm just going to tap motion, and then leave those settings as is and tap generate. So once it's done generating, you'll have a video of tons of floating lanterns, and you only had to draw one of them, which is so great about Adobe Fresco, and it was so easy to animate with this app. So I hope you check it out, and thanks for watching.